Hello, Gaston County. Welcome to episode number 140 of Gaston's Great, a podcast highlighting some of the great things happening in and around Gaston County. I'm your host, Stephen Long. We're coming to you today from we're going to call it the intergalactic headquarters of GSM Services today. You like that, Naomi? Intergalactic. We simply believe in discussing more of the reasons why Gaston's great. We have another returning organization and guest this week as we highlight the Gaston County Education Foundation. We had Amy on way back on episode number 4 back in May of 2021. So, man, time sure flies. But Amy Spencer with us today, who is the executive director. So, Amy, it's great to have you on, and welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
All right. So, we are going to make you re-answer some of the questions. And if anybody wants, sometimes it's interesting to go back and listen like a dummy. I didn't go back and listen to episode number 4 like I should have to prepare for this. But it's always interesting to hear, what has changed and happened over the time. But we're going to make you answer the first question that we always ask is just tell us a little bit about yourself. Anything that you would like to share before we get into what's been happening with the foundation.
You could say now that I'm a lifetime resident of Gaston County. I was born in Charleston. We moved here in 1979. My mom and dad and my sister went to Robinson Elementary, Greer, Ashbrook, went out to Georgia. Said, never coming back to Gaston County, coming back, going somewhere else. And the one thing I've learned, and I'm watching it with our children, the older you get, the more you want to come be around your family. So Marsh and I got married in 1998. And as my children pointed out, my youngest one in particular, he told me I was a product of the 1900s.
Well, literally, I guess that's some accuracy to that.
So as a product of the 1900s, we decided to come back here, set up, and raise 3 boys. And now one has returned to the area, and then one's down at Wofford, and one is at Highland at school. So we love it here.
And you've got one more year of high school. Is that correct?
He is a junior this year.
That's what I thought. So because we are living the first, unofficial empty nesting. Let me put it that way.
I'm not sure what that's going to hold. I'm a little concerned, but I'm really glad the oldest child's ever in Charlotte because I'm going to drop the furry animals off there when I decide to head out on the last minute.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's fair.
All right. So, listen, and also Amy and I have known each other, and my wife has known Amy for a very long time. Going back to, I didn't have that exact path. I was Sherwood, Greer, and Ashbrook, but very similar path. And I think Janet was Gardner Park, Holbrook, and Ashbrook. Yeah. So. But we go back just a few years. And
just a little bit. Back to the 1900s.
Yeah, back to the 1900s, and we'll leave it at that. So we might have some listeners who just aren't familiar with the Gaston County Education Foundation. So maybe just real quick, just kind of what's the mission, even vision of the organization, and kind of and then we'll get into, more specifics in a day in the life of the organization, and then what has been going on the last 3.5 years.
Okay. So the Gaston County Education Foundation was set up in 1992 with a bunch of local business leaders who came to the superintendent, Dr. West, and said, we need to figure out how to get some private sector funding into the schools. That's why it was established. Jennie Stultz was their first executive director. I took over, I think, 2017. I started in 16, but by myself in 17.
So 2 directors in 32 years?
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Correct. Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we've had 3 superintendents, 4 superintendents. Maybe 5 since then. So a lot has gone on. Things have changed in education, as everybody knows. So about 2019, we said we need to really work on our mission. Things are not exactly what they used to be, and what we're doing is a little bit different. So we developed a mission, which is to support underfunded programs and projects that enhance educational opportunities in Gaston County public schools. But by doing this, we said, how are we going to do that? What's our vision? And our vision is to provide a learning environment kind of free of financial limitations, which is really hard because the budget continues to be cut. The teachers continue to spend their own money to subsidize the programs they want to implement in their class. So when I started, I was just kind of fundraising, but now it's kind of like a personal mission to me. I don't want these teachers to have to do that. I want to do everything within my power to help make life a little bit easier for the people who are not paid to do what they do, because they are the hardest working, and it's truly it's a calling for them to go in one of their classrooms every day and see,
right.
When we give them a grant, we run Are You Smarter, we raise funds, we give this money back out to see the impact it makes in their lives. We had teachers crying last week.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to go a little out of order because that reminded me, I knew that you were doing that. I have, for some reason, I'm on the board of Gaston County Education Foundation. What I mean by that is I'm not sure I've elevated the board, but I'm there. And so I get to see the things that are going on. And yeah, just recently, just within the past week or so, you've been handing out grants to teachers. Is that correct? At schools? So maybe just real quick, talk about that experience and how often that's done, and is it always done this time of year? And just real quick, and maybe even talk about some of the, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but some of the one or two of the specific projects or initiatives the teachers are doing that the organization is supporting.
Okay, so there, like I said, since I've come on board, we've changed a lot, and so we have 3 different grants that run each year, and one major fundraising event. Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader is every February. It's always the first Thursday in February. It is the loudest, the most fun, the most exciting, the most creative event.
Loud is a good way to describe it. I've been multiple times. It's loud is a good way.
I have a little PTSD afterwards. I go home and sit in the chair, and everybody at my family's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Give me a few minutes. I got to figure this out." But it's great because we are able to take our businesses who sponsor teams, partner them with schools, and kind of build a corporate relationship with them, which we're really working to try to increase that relationship even more so. I know that one of our organizations brings their students in and has lunch with them and, introduces them to a business meal. Some of these students, this is the only time. So that's why we not only want to do Are You Smarter, but it's kind of another arm of it is to introduce these students to different ways of life, different things different careers, different things they are not necessarily exposed to. And I wasn't either when I was in the 5th grade. I mean, I was all about playing and going to school and what we were eating. I mean, it was pretty much
We sure weren't worried about how much it cost.
I sure wasn't worried about how much anything cost.
Yeah.
Which I try to remember that with my kids.
Right.
So we do this Are You Smarter event, and we've been doing it. This is like our 16th year. It's kind of fun. The students change, the businesses change, but we raise money. That is the bottom line. We're able to raise funds to fund our grant cycles. So back to what you said, the grant cycle, the Ensley Grant, the Ron L. Ensley Grant. Ron Ensley was our longtime chairperson. He worked for A&E for years. He has huge interest in public education. His daughter is a teacher. She was at Cramerton. I think she's still there. This grant was set up in honor of him, but it is able to fund things like in the areas of science, math, art, history, health and wellness, cross-discipline, STEAM. So it's a really broad grant. And we run it from we open the grant up to teachers August 1st when there are no students. And we close it about mid-September, September 15th. We always close it on a Sunday night so they have the weekend because much like me, they probably are waiting till the last minute for some things.
Sure.
They submit it, and then we use our board to review this. And we love these grants because a single teacher can write a grant and get up to $750 for an initiative he or she wants to implement into the classroom. But if they team up, if they do a cross-discipline grant, which a lot of grants and requests are cross-discipline, they can get up to $2,500. So our independent board blindly judges these grants. They decide who gives them, and then I get to go generally the week of Halloween when everybody's just crazy and nuts, and Publishers Clearinghouse them. I surprise them. Rather than asking them to come to a celebration, which is what we used to do, their time is precious. They've got to find childcare, a lot of them. They have other things going on. So many of them are in school. We said, let's do this. Let's surprise them, and let's surprise them with their students. So we've been able to get the principals on board, and they're thrilled.
And that's good, yeah.
It's thrilled.
With the giant checks, what she's talking about.
I mean, I have a giant check.
If you go onto the Education Foundation social media, you'll see some of that.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Because that you can see all the great things. You can even see the kids jumping up and down and cheering. Yeah. I mean, we were at New Hope last week for a reading program they're implementing. And it was funny, we snuck in and the new principal, Miss Glisson, was there. She had her principal peer advisor with her, which is an old superintendent of, I can't remember which county, another county in North Carolina. We kind of tiptoed down the hall, and they called the teachers out in the hall. Well, then it was funny. The kids saw the check, and they saw the board members with me, and the kids were out in the hall jumping up and down. And they're jumping up and down because their teachers took time to write a grant for them.
Ultimately, for their benefit.
For their benefit. And it's a grant that is sustainable. So it's not even just for them. It's for every student over the next few years. Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that, because shifting gears just briefly. But that gives a good indication of what the foundation is doing and how. And then ultimately, listen, it does take a lot of things that we get involved with or guests on our podcast. It just takes funding, because there's already people on the ground to go do the work, right? Especially when you're talking about teachers. Yeah, they're in situations where the expenses, what they want to accomplish, sometimes are just not in the budget, right? And so it's really good. So let's talk. You mentioned 2019 is when y'all maybe the foundation started to shift gears a little bit, or maybe change the mission. Is that a good description?
We changed the mission. It's always been to support the school system, but kind of a more direct mission.
Understood. Yeah.
We kind of needed to make a little more pointed mission as to what are we doing?
Right. So what's happened in the last 3.5 years now? Because that's officially. It's post-COVID, but when we first talked, we were still in the middle of it.
We were.
That was May of 2021, so it was just barely over a year, and of course that lingered on. We don't even like to say that word anymore, but when you're talking to, frankly, nonprofit organizations, gosh, they were all impacted. Everybody was impacted in some way, right? But it seemed like nonprofits were impacted more, or at least the ones that I was involved with. So, what's going on in the last 3.5 years? What are some of the initiatives going on now, or is it pretty much the same, and you got to just pinpoint, or things starting to come back, the school's getting more involved, just kind of just a general feel for what's going on with the organization?
So honestly, during COVID, the community was great at supporting Gaston County schools.
Okay.
We had phenomenal years. We had phenomenal support. To that, one of the things that we're trying to do is work as a whole in nonprofits and kind of rely on each other. So some of the things that have changed, the Glenn sisters, they celebrated their 50th anniversary, and they came to us and they said, you've got the connection with the teachers. We want to make a 50th anniversary gift to you to establish a grant to give to teachers for personal development, or professional development, not personal development, for professional development. And we're going to continue to fund that grant so that you can. So
an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing. It was a perfect fit for us. So what we do now is on mid-January, we're going on our third grant cycle, where we send out a grant to teachers to fund their professional development. It might be national board certification. But this year, it's kind of interesting, and I wrote these down. This year, we have been able to do things such as, we have a teacher who is a certified trauma and resilience specialist in education. She's sitting at Springfield Elementary. Well, my board doesn't know what that is. So when we went in to talk to her, she talked to us about the trauma of the children, things like that, and how they're going to do it. She's going to take what she learns and feed it out to her, kind of teach the teacher. Computer science principal, somebody spent their hard-earned money to go to computer science training. We're able to help fund that with the help of the Glenn sisters. And then a National Science Teachers Association, which I would probably be in heaven because I'm a little bit of a science nerd, so I would be all in. I could spend hours there. This teacher learned so much and brought it back to her school. And then again, they're all teaching the teachers. So that's one way we've changed, is we've partnered with sister organizations to make a greater...
So maybe collaborating a little more than before.
A lot more collaboration and getting funding out to the teachers. And we really appreciate the Glenn Foundation thinking of us and teaching these, and and supporting our teachers, because they are one of the most valuable assets we have. Dr. Huchard and I were talking about that the other day, because they have great plans of things to do. So that's the other thing that's changed. We have a whole new administration.
Yes. Yeah.
So things are changing as far as that, and direction's different. We were dealing with different reading ways to read. Now we're new reading, new math. I mean, and so we try to support them. There are new science initiatives that came out this year. We had a tremendous number of grants written for science initiatives, for hands-on learning. It's a lot more hands-on learning. 1 year it was special seating, so things have changed in education since COVID, and things have changed for us. We need to meet the teachers where they are.
Right. All right. So you just said a lot.
A lot.
So something I know our listeners like to hear, and you've already actually shared, 4 or 5 examples, but can you maybe go a little more detail on one of those, or an example of where, after you give the grant out, and then is there any follow-up where you've seen, wow, this is exactly why the foundation is here? So an anecdotal story of students that were impacted, or a teacher with the professional development that was really impacted, and maybe you saw the results of that. Just any anecdotal stories, anything you can share that was, wow, this is a great example of why the foundation is here.
I kind of expected you would say that. But last night while I was getting ready, I was typing all these. I get excited about this, and one of my children was doing his homework, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, standing up, jumping up and down. I'm like, I get really excited about what I do, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you are so weird." I'm like, if you see it,
well, it's obvious
you would understand
your passion for it. Yeah.
We went to Stanley Middle School, and we've given 2 grants out there. One is a watershed grant, and we've gotten to see that one in action. But the thing that impressed me the most is a grant for our aquaponics program. And so this teacher is teaching plant life cycle, but then it transfers out. So we go to visit her last spring because we follow up on every grant. Yeah. I give it in the fall. I'm coming to see you in March, April. As soon as Are You Smarter's ever with, I send out requests. I need to see your grant. I need to see your grant, because that's one of the things we had not been doing when I first came on board. So we go out there and we go to Stanley Middle School, and all of a sudden we go in a room and there's a teacher, but there are these 2 students. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, the students are going to tell you about the grant.
Oh, wow.
And they walked us through maintaining the water pH and all the things, how they plan on what they do, how much light, how they document it. And to see the joy in what they're doing, it helps them learn. I mean, I'm a hands-on learner. I do much better if I'm given a project and told to work with it. They were able to tell us what they were going to do. Then they were going to transfer it over to a garden and then be able to make food with it. I think it was lettuce, but it was amazing. I mean, they had our full attention for like an hour. I was like, what class are y'all missing?
So what was this called again?
It's an aquaponics program. I don't know the exact name of the grant, but it just...
Yeah, I remember hearing about that at the first board meeting.
It was truly amazing. Another grant we helped...
something that I'm just not familiar with.
Well, another grant we helped fund was at WC Friday, and this teacher has since retired, but she wanted to be her legacy. I think this was phenomenal, and she was a repeat winner for us. She had VR goggles that we awarded during COVID. And the first thing they did, she had them do, and it was a cross-curricular grant, they visited different countries with their VR goggles.
Okay.
But then they established the modern-day version of a pen pal, which is an email pal, and they wrote back and forth with students from the schools that they attended in those countries. But then it took it to the next level. They did presentations for each other about this is what our cafeteria is, this is what we do with our trash, this is what our day... It was and the students, the U.S. students did it as well, and it was a very interesting conversation on the difference in the European culture.
Utilizing the technology that is available, right?
It was just neat, and a lot of these kids will never see.
Yeah.
And they put them on me, and I don't know if y'all have ever put VR goggles on, but I got to go to Rome.
I have a couple times.
A little sick
Nothing
at
like
first,
that, but yeah.
The VR goggles, and the child was next to me, was on theirs, and they were able to say, this is what happened at this location. So they got the history lesson out of it too. It was just a really great grant to see used across the history class, the language arts class. The math class incorporated it too, but I'm not.
Well, we have so many, I know especially when I was younger, I had all these visions of these other countries through movies or some stereotype or something ridiculous. And some of these places I've visited, I'm like, you know what, that wasn't like what I thought.
No, but like this summer we were...
And everybody, and also everybody everywhere is so similar. We think we're so different, but we're not.
We're very similar.
We might speak a different language, and the culture is going to be slightly different. But in general, we're
and that's what this teacher
similar.
She said. The children presented the presentation to me, and that was one of the things. They're like, they live in a different place, but like we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Well, that's good exposure for kids to see that.
That's, many of us are never going to these places, so they're able to see it. And she brought it in, and but she made them learn about it. I mean, that was they learned about Rome. They learned about their country their school was in Sweden. So not a place that
I've never been.
I've never been to Sweden. I've been to Rome. I went this year. It was fun.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So we got to. I know you mentioned it. You kind of brushed over it a little bit. We got to talk about, are you smarter than the Gaston County Fifth Grader? So just that is such a big event. I mean, you talked about how loud it was in what, year 16, I think is what you said. So just give us a quick rundown of that event, how it started. I mean, that's the biggest fundraiser, correct?
It is the biggest fundraiser.
Because I've been there multiple times, and
I provide earplugs.
Pleasant Ridge, we have partnered with Pleasant Ridge. We have been involved with it. I don't know, is it every year maybe?
I think y'all are my longest running.
I know
Dominion, in Bridge now.
Yeah, and we partnered with the Grizzlies forever, and then when they moved on, we picked it up ourselves. But anyway, where I was going is that the last time I was actually on the team, we won. Have y'all heard that here before?
Oh.
Have I ever said that? Really? All the time, especially when
So are you coming back this year?
No,
Stephen.
It's bad form to be on the board and be on the team.
Oh yeah, you can't. He's working actually. He doesn't know it yet.
So, but anyway, I say that in somewhat in jest, but it is a great event. Out of 16 times, I haven't been there 16 times. I bet I've been there 6 or 7 times myself, but often out of town or other kids' events.
Weren't you Darth Vader one time?
Kylo Ren one time.
And
I got a lecture from somebody in the office that I'm not supposed to wear, costumes.
Helmet.
Yeah, to schools. But, it was fun because it was, anyway.
Hopefully by the next time we'll have Max.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe, we've got we'll save that for
You save that. Don't show all your cards now. I mean,
we have,
the cards are held very close on who the teammates are.
So,
Are You Smarter?
Yeah, just give us a quick, just a quick rundown for our listeners about the event, when it is, and just opportunities to donate and be involved in all that.
Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader is our only fundraiser that we do. It is our largest fundraiser. And Jennie Stultz, this is the brainchild of Jennie Stultz. I just inherited it. And we've been able to make it grow. I think she started with 12 teams, and we are now up to 18 teams, which is a lot of teams. But we had to cut our cheerleaders back because I can't fit everybody.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of screaming kids. It's like a license that I say, welcome, and everybody just screams at the top of their lungs. And I advise those that do have teams not to provide whistles. Whistles are bad because they lose their minds. So what we do is we go and we find organizations that are willing to partner with our schools. We have a lot of repeat like you guys are, and we appreciate it. And they go in and you do a little study and you have a little pizza party, you make friends, you create a theme, which this year is fictional character. Writing that down, aren't you? Yeah. Fictional character. Not storybook, but fictional character. If I can figure out how to do blackout lighting, we're going to do neon night, but that takes a lot of light bulbs at Stuart Kramer.
Oh, yeah.
The event will be held on February 6th, not August like I was going, but February 6th at 6 p.m. at Stuart Kramer High School, and it's open to the public. It is truly a night to see pure joy in these kids. They love it. And I always laugh. I'm like, people will say to me, what do you win? I'm like, you win a $2 trophy.
Oh, yeah.
And some bragging rights.
Yeah.
Which go further. And the
not
kids.
That I ever bring it up.
Not that anybody brags. I mean, Mary Grace Bean, I think she's been on the winning team twice as well.
Has she? Well, I did something.
Oh, yes. And then
that's funny.
Last year's winning team was Next Generation with the Community Foundation.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
And they were holes. So we go with a theme every year. Last year was a book theme. This year is a fictional character theme. The kids enjoy it. They're able to go out. So during COVID, the kids that we have now started kindergarten during COVID.
Okay, wow.
So they don't take as many field trips. So this is like a field trip, and it's a big deal for them. And it's an opportunity to go out to see other schools, how adults behave in public, even though they're dressed up. Some, yes. So there's a lot of things. Show your school spirit. They don't get opportunities in elementary school quite like they do in the high schools to show their team spirit. So they're able to show spirit. They're dressing up. Their mom and dads come. Everybody's proud. They get on stage, 2 of them with 4 adult coaches, and it's the funniest thing because those students know those answers.
Well, I was going to say one of the things that comes to mind when I've been on multiple teams is
listen to the student.
Yeah, listening to the students and understanding these questions that the adults are like, more than once I was like, I have no idea.
How about the math?
And oftentimes the student would be correct, yes.
How about the math? They throw some math problems up there, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to need more than 30 seconds to answer this.
And it's things that I don't remember doing in 5th grade.
That we probably didn't.
Yeah.
They do things a lot earlier than we did in the 1900s. Just remember that,
That's
the
right,
1900s.
the 1900s.
So.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate it because it is a big deal. It's a big event, and it's obviously been going on for a long time. And I guess back 16 years ago, that the TV show "Are You Smarter Than 5th Grade?" that was a popular thing. So it worked out great to be able, because nobody else was doing that around here.
Well, remember,
and
Are You Smarter Than a
Gaston
County Fifth Grader?
Right. Yeah. Right. So. But yeah, so
and most of us are not. They're pretty smart.
They are.
They're pretty smart cookies. They answer questions, and you're like, really? And they read books we didn't read.
I think they're answering. To me, it's college level questions, but maybe that's just me. So, so a lot's been going on. For listeners, if you've been paying attention, you're still hanging out with us here. 20 some minutes later, you've heard the foundation. This foundation specifically. Like so many organizations around here, but they're doing very specific, targeted work, and I've had the luxury of personally seeing the results of that. So I know we answered this. Funny, we asked this question 3.5 years ago, and here we are. That question: what does the future look like? I think we probably even said 3 to 5 years, and here we are, 3.5 years later. I mean, what looking ahead now, is there any specific plans, or is it just trying to continue the good work that the group's doing now?
We have 2 new things that have happened. Kind of things have evolved. We have a great deal of students that use English as a second language. And that has affected our scores because they get the same test English as a first language students get.
Right.
So this year with some of our grant funding, we were able, or with our Are You Smarter funding, we were able to grant the school system. They wrote a grant to us to help support an ESL initiative.
Right.
That we actually wrote a grant to the Community Foundation with them, and the Community Foundation granted that, and we were able to match the second year. So they have 2 years of funding to work with specialized groups of ESL students to educate them on the English language and get them brought up to standards, which is huge because it's not fair to take a test that you can't read. I mean, it's kind of like taking the SAT sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other initiative we've found that we've started, and it's rolling out next week, is something called Give the Gift of Education. What we have found in talking with our teachers is the first of the year, everybody brings in paper and pencils and earbuds. Believe it or not, earbuds are huge because they do a lot of computer stuff. So Give the Gift of Education is a brainchild that I work with Valerie Yatko on, and we kind of modeled it after Hillsborough County, Florida. People can make a donation at Christmas rather than, I know that for me, we give to a charitable organization, so I can write it to us. I'm going to send a little card out that says you've been gifted the gift of education by the following family, and a donation of $50 can help with paper and pencils. Those supplies are depleted by the mid-year. They're gone. Okay. So it's a way to restock their cabinets for that. $100, we can do technology, flash drives, earbuds. Somebody needs a mouse, things like that. We tiered it. $150 helps with the personal development. $250 helps with a classroom grant. $1,000 can help with the teaching grant. So we were able to do that, and people are able to say, I would like, say someone gives $250, I'd like it to go all into supplies, or I'd like it to be split between supplies. But it's a way to involve the community into helping our schools.
And know specifically what it's doing.
And know specifically what it's doing, and it's a tax write-off for people. So that's the new initiative we've done. We're going to have a little closet, and I've just added to my list of things. So once a week, they call me and they say, I need paper or markers at, Webb Street. I'm going to go over, package them up, and they're going to go up through the courier to Webb Street.
All right. Well, good. All right. Well, that's interesting. So so that's it's good to hear some things that are going on, and I mean, it also feels like you have adapted to the changing times too, right? Things are not the same as it was back in the 1900s, right?
Did you ever take a Dale Carnegie class?
Yes.
Do you remember the line that stuck with me? And it stuck with me forever is, if you're green, you're growing, and if you're ripe, you're right.
Yes.
That kind of sticks in the back of my mind. We got to
Yeah.
keep changing. We're going to have to keep changing, because if I quit.
Well, when I was younger, I used to think you could get to a status quo and you could kind of stay there. But I've learned that I don't believe that anymore. I think if you're not trying to grow somewhere,
Exactly.
whether it's professionally, personally, health, relationships, spiritual, being a parent, whatever. If you're not growing or trying to grow in those areas, you're going to take a step back, and you don't even realize it. So
Get busy living, because you may as well die.
yeah, a little Shawshank Redemption there. Wow, Amy's got it going on. Dale Carnegie, which is
That was
how
so
to
long
Win Friends
ago.
and Influence People. You ever heard of that book? Yeah, Dale Carnegie. It's a whole.
That when we graduated from college, I was in sales. They sent us to the sales class, and it was.
Dale Carnegie's it's good.
It's a good class. It's basics.
It's a classic. That book is considered, in his concept, considered the classic personal development type stuff and in relationship stuff. It's really good. Yeah.
But when you talk about adapting, I think about that. I mean, and I want this to grow. I want this. I'm not going to be here forever. I mean, I'm not going to do this forever. And I want it to be better than I started.
Oh, sure.
I want to leave things better.
So before we shift gears here, anything I haven't asked that I should have asked, anything that you want to make sure, obviously, but the last thing we'll do is make sure our listeners know how to find more information out.
Absolutely.
And how to get to your social media and websites and all that. We'll just make sure that's one of the last things we do. But nothing else you want to add real quick before we shift gears?
We would love sponsors.
Okay.
For Are You Smarter Than Fifth Grader, so we can make a great impact in the classrooms. That's the main thing.
So just like 3.5 years ago, when we made Amy answer some of these Gaston County related questions. And of course, she's getting ready to hear some of these questions for the very first time. And we're going to call this the 1 year away from empty nesting round of questions.
Oh, no. Do I get to stand up and jump around like I did yesterday that freaked out my kid?
Absolutely not. So first question is, what's your favorite movie?
Favorite? I love Rocky.
Anything with Will Ferrell? No.
No, I love, yes. No,
But Rocky's terrific.
I love Rocky. The competitor in me loves Rocky.
I saw Rocky in the Webb Theater.
Did you really?
I did.
I might have seen it in the Webb Theater. I just didn't realize that's where I was.
No, I sure did. They're on South Street.
You know what else I love? I love Steel Magnolias, though.
Oh, you lost me.
Janet,
I'm pretty sure Janet loves that movie too. But yeah, that is not down my alley.
And I'm not going to lie, if Top Gun comes on, and it's not Tom Cruise, that's not why. I love.
Yeah. The new one's pretty good too. The newest
one's really good.
Maverick, I think it's the name of it. So
I don't like girly movies.
Steel Magnolia's
okay, that's the only one, and that's only
girly.
if you need a good cry, you watch that movie.
Yeah, that is a girly cry movie, boy.
Now my family loves Grown Ups.
So that's not a girly cry movie. So how about a similar question, but recent movie or show or something you or your family have streamed online?
My mindless. No, I'm not going to tell you what my mindless one is because it's really bad. But it's not that bad. I mean, it's like Emily in Paris. I mean, totally mindless. See, it's mindless.
I've never even heard of that.
No, you would not enjoy it. It is girly.
Okay.
I watched Mary Poppins Returns last night.
Okay.
I had never seen that, and I enjoyed that immensely.
Is that one with who's in that?
Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
And it was good.
I'm pretty sure Janet and the girls have probably seen that. I haven't.
Pretty sure Marsh went upstairs and watched something else. Yeah. But I was downstairs by myself. Anything else? You watched
that's good. I mean, like the original's great.
I had never seen it, and
a lot of lessons from that.
There were still a lot of lessons, like don't judge a book by its cover.
How about favorite memory as a child?
You know where I spent my summers? In the pool. I love swimming, but one of my very favorite memories was in the summer. Our swim team had these two phenomenal swim coaches. They were Cam Johnson and Daphne White.
Okay.
And and Kiefer Gaddis, the three of them, they loved us. Dove Long was one of them too.
Okay, yeah, no
And
doubt.
they would pack, this was before seatbelts, they would get somebody's mom's station wagon and they would come out and kidnap us at night and take us to Tony's to have ice cream.
That seems safe.
It was, you know what, we didn't die. They sugared us up. We went to Tony's, we had ice cream, and then we would just sit around and sing songs. Life was simple, and it was, my sister and I still talk about how much fun that was, and the songs we remember, and we share them with our kids, and when we were swim coaches, we tried to.
So she had to work into Tony's, even though we didn't ask that question this time around.
We went to Tony's.
Good. So this is a question that we asked the first time, but since you've got one that has graduated and another in college and another about probably go to college, would your answer be different now? The UNC Duke or NC State question?
It's still Georgia. Even though I have a child that went to Alabama, it's still go Dogs.
All right. So,
but it might be State with the youngest one. He's looking at State.
Must be the smartest of the three. Is that it?
I might say that. Some might say otherwise in my house.
So, the question we ask typically right now and before was what's something very few people know about you. But since I already asked that, I changed it to, if you could have coffee with one historical figure, who would it be and why?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to drink coffee because I don't drink coffee. But if I could have a Diet Coke with someone, she's with me. Who would I have?
Yeah, this is water, by the way. This is not coffee. A lot of people think I'm drinking coffee every time I have that.
I don't know. Historical figure.
That's a tough question.
That's a hard question.
But we're not going to let you off the hook.
You're not going to let me off the hook either, are you?
What are you drinking?
I haven't had any caffeine yet. I saved it so I wouldn't be bouncing off the walls. Who would I have coffee with? And I've actually never thought about that.
There is a time limit.
I know, and I've pulled a blank. So,
you want to come back to it?
Let me think about that.
All right. So
there's so many people.
So it's been 3.5 years. So I'm going to ask the same question that we do. Al. I do like to. Is there any book you would recommend from recently, or blog, article, another podcast that you might listen to, or just anything that you might recommend to our listeners?
I just read the book, The Women, and it was.
You know what? Somebody else mentioned that.
It was outstanding.
The last couple months.
I read that one, and it was really, really good. It was from a different perspective of the Vietnam War.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's the second time I've heard that in the last few months.
It was. And back to my historical person.
Okay.
I don't know if it'd be a historical person more so than I would love to sit and talk with the president. And I would love to talk to them about, I feel very passionate about teachers. And I would love to talk to them on what they plan to do for our teachers.
Okay. That's interesting.
And we need to learn from our past. We need to keep good teachers. We do. They're underpaid.
Yeah, for some reason.
I'm getting on my soapbox here.
For some reason, it seems like we struggled to learn from the past.
Do we ever?
Yeah, and when we keep repeating some of the same things over and over.
But I think we need to, it would be any president probably to find out where we went wrong and why we decided
that's a good answer.
To cut educational funding. Because I feel very strongly that there are great teachers who leave this field every day.
Yeah.
They create our future.
We got to start giving you a microphone.
Yeah, you don't have a microphone. You want mine? They do. They create every job.
Yeah, at some point, yeah. They'll think they'll inspire kids down that path.
And that's what
that they might not have known before, or may not have realized before.
I don't know which historical I would put.
So you have the president.
I would like to go down the
get your act together is what you're saying.
I would. And
this is appropriate because we're recording this on Wednesday, November 6th. It's the day after the election.
I know. Now we can move on to the holidays.
We can move on to something else.
You got it.
Regardless of.
At my house, the tree may go up.
Yeah, I'm glad to get on with it. Get back to some normality. Geez.
I like to watch TV.
So again, I appreciate you indulging us on those, Gaston County related questions, especially since you had not heard some of them before.
No, and you sideswiped me with one of them.
Yeah, so this is a repeat question. I am going to ask you to answer this one again because I don't know. I'm going to doubt it's changed because you've been here for so long, but it's possible maybe you have learned something in the last 3.5 years. But the question about, besides the Gaston County Education Foundation, why is, in your view, Gaston County such a great place?
I think we have great leadership. I think we are a great place to live. We have good people. We have a good Christian base. We have a good, I love it. We have land. I'm a yard person. I love being out in the land. I love the fact that our neighbors check on each other. I live in a neighborhood where now I'm the oldest person, but we have lots of little children, and we still get together out and we see each other and we talk and we care about each other.
Yeah, that's good. Sometimes I'll add some comment, but I don't think I have anything to add to that one.
So I came back. You remember I said I was never coming back, and look, and I love it. I'm glad we came back.
Well, I have had the fortune to travel a little bit and spend time away at college, and I've never found a place that I wanted to stay. I enjoy visiting places, but nothing that's ever struck me. You know what? This is better than Gaston County.
My friends are here. My family are here.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is where my roots were made.
So this is, as expected, this has been really good. So again, remember, this is, purpose here is just to bring recognition and to your organization, the things that you guys are doing. And is there any current need? So that this finished with just how can listeners find more information out? Are there opportunities coming? We've already mentioned, Are You Smarter Than a Gaston County Fifth Grader, with the details of that event. Just anything and everything you want to share about that, and then we'll close this episode out.
You can visit us at our website, which I don't think we had a website
It seems like
we were in the process,
working on it or something. Yeah.
At the Gaston County Education Foundation.org. You can follow us on Gaston County Schools. There's a page under Gaston County Schools website. We are on Facebook and Instagram. I can't do X. It's just I have a hard time with that. But go to Instagram. That's a great place to find out about grants that are going on, grants that are being given out, what we're doing. And it's this, my Facebook and my Instagram are linked. So when I post on one, it goes to both. Give the Gift of Education rolls out next week, and Are You Smarter is February 6th.
Will they be able to see some of that on social media as well?
It is going to be all over social media.
Because we're recording this on the 6th, so it'll be next Thursday, right?
And it's going to run 14th. Right, and we'll close it
So this will be perfect because the week that starts is when this episode will be released.
That'll be awesome.
So it'll be next week. And plenty of, 4 months, a little less than 4 months 3 months, until the big event. You're going to make me start twitching over here. I'll stop sleeping again. Yeah, it's 3 months.
It's so much fun.
Matter of fact, it's 3 months the 6th, right?
It is.
3 months from today.
3 months from today.
It's on a Thursday. That's a Thursday, probably.
It's on a Thursday, but you got to remember nothing's happening in February.
Yeah.
It's the most exciting event in February.
That's good timing. So any last words, anything you'd like to share before we close this episode out?
No, but thank you for having me come. I love talking about the Education Foundation.
Yeah, that's obvious.
It's my heart. I love doing it, and I love supporting our teachers and students.
Well, any good organization like this has to have someone with passion behind it, and that's obvious that you've been doing that now for 8 years. Okay, wow. So again, you're doing something, and your board is doing something that's making an impact in our community, and nothing is better, in my view, than things that we can do for the youth of our community. That's something we like to focus on here at GSM as well. A lot of things that we're involved with. That is a question we ask. What are you doing for the youth?
They're
locally?
Our future. They're the future of this county.
So this is, as I usual, I'm going to do my book recommendation and my quote. And my quote is from Grant Cardone. If you don't know him, he's somebody that I follow a little bit. But this quote may not directly talk related to what we talked about. But this probably quotes to everyday life, but the book I picked this week does, and something Amy just talked about. But he said, most opportunities are disguised as problems. And I'm afraid that's true, and that's one reason we miss some opportunities, because I don't know about you, but I don't like dealing with problems. But so many opportunities come after we solve problems and after we get through problems that we think are a big deal, and oftentimes they're not a big deal. Now, obviously, there are catastrophic things that occur. That's not what he's talking about here or what I'm talking about, but there's day-to-day things that we deal with that, I don't know about you, but I'll blow them up out of proportion often, and so I don't see the opportunity that comes after. And my book recommendation for this week comes from Chip Heath, and it's called Switch: How to Change Things When Change is Hard. So, earlier we talked about adapting and changing with the times, and, the education system isn't like it was back in the 1900s when Amy and I were in Gaston County Public School System. So, organizations like the foundation, Education Foundation, has done a good job of adapting and changing over the time. So that's just something to remember, because frankly, us humans, we don't really like change, but we have to be ready, and those opportunities can come often through change when it's, how can I put it, when it's got the right intent and it stays with the mission of an organization, especially like the Education Foundation. All right, so to our listeners out there, thanks so much for taking time to listen to today's episode. Please continue to spread the word if you can about the podcast, and please don't hesitate to contact us here at an email address, which is podcast@gastonsgreat.com. We're always looking for suggestions for future podcast topics and guests. You can find the podcast and subscribe at the website, gastonsgreat.com, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Podcast? What's a podcast? Podcast. Please follow us on all our social media platforms. And thanks again to Amy Spencer for being our guest today. Gaston's Great is produced and brought to you by Naomi Hunt and Amy Anderson from GSM Services. I'm your host, Stephen Long. Thanks again for hanging out with us, and please keep coming back to hear more reasons why Gaston's great.